You have to get over your fold. And this is the fear of looking dumb. Go about your life and bring awareness to every single instance where you think something and you do something different.
Hello everybody, welcome to Mindset Simplified, and this show is going to introduce you to these mindset experts from all over the world who actually kind of fine-tune their mindset in overcoming so many challenges and becoming successful. And they are going to share everything, real life situations, challenges, failures, and successes, so that you can pick up that knowledge and implement in your real life so that you become successful much faster. And today's guest is one of the most amazing individual, and he's a very influential coach as well. For the past decade, he coached many people to think differently and change their perspective. And he coached people through music, business, and also education and entrepreneurship. He is passionate about being passionate. Isn't that really interesting? And he worked with Vision+Values+Velocity in Mind Valley, and also featured in UB, Japan Expo, and Love Mafia shows. He recently moved from Malaysia to Istanbul to join Earth University as a head of mentorship and helping to change organizations now from the inside out by mentoring humans for humanity. And he is going to release a book soon about how to communicate with courage, a strategic guide to self-expression. And I am more than excited even before the book is out. So help me to introduce Austin Willman, coach, globetrotter, and a passionate individual. Hi, Austin. How are you doing?
Awesome. Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you for the very gracious introduction. I appreciate you reaching out to me, and I'm super pumped to be here, man.
Wow, I can feel the energy already. I really want to ask, even before we really go into any conversation, I want to ask, right, the journey from US to KL, and I know that you've already traveled a lot within Asia, and then now to Istanbul. What kind of thought process, you go through in taking such decisions in moving really continents?
Yeah, man, I think it happened way before it happened. So I remember Gary Vaynerchuk saying, when I was first introduced to this guy, saying it took me 10 years to become an overnight success. And that really stuck with me. And so I'm seeing what you're seeing now on the outside, my Facebook videos, my LinkedIn content, the organizations that I'm putting together, startups that are happening. It goes 10 years back, even further. Even in high school, I was reflecting today that everybody had, they were kind of dating each other in my class, in the school. And for some reason, I don't know why this happened, but I wouldn't even date people from the same school. I had to go to another school. All my friends were from different districts. As soon as I got my driver's license, literally the next day, I drove 2 hours with my mom to get out of the city. I was always this like exploratory person. And I think it comes down to a belief that I have in life and in myself, that self-expression and being different or being unique is ultimately the way to, in some sense, find happiness. It's the way that I kind of define my own success, which I'm sure we'll get into later. But the way that I think looks exactly the way that I experience the world. And I'm becoming more and more centered around that one concept.
Ooh.
So, yeah. To bring it back to the to the traveling part, I think that's just it's just a circumstance that expands upon the way that I see the world. That it's vast, it's huge, and my belief about myself is all about expression and exploration, and that's just a part of me expressing myself is by traveling.
Wow. Okay, this is really amazing, and I can relate to it very very closely because I traveled for 20, I think more than 20 countries across 4 continents. Every place is different, and every experience comes out of a conversation. It is not comparable to anything before. But if you see it, I love the energy that you bring in terms of self-expression. Now, pretty much, most of the places in the whole world, self-expression is pretty much limited. And one of the most common response I get is, uh, I, I don't know what the other people will think. I mean, I want to fit into the society. And, can you throw some light how you actually overcame the expectations, from the people around you and the society around you?
This is something great to bring up, and I call it the fold. You have to get over your fold, and this is the fear of looking dumb.
Oh, okay. I love that.
It's the fold, right? Every time you experience. So a very tactical tip that I give some of my coaching clients and the people that I mentor is I say, you don't have to do anything different, but your homework after the session is for you to go about your life and bring awareness to every single instance where you think something and you do something different than what you think. You don't have to change. You don't have to do anything. Just start to acknowledge all the areas and all the time. The point of this is not to acknowledge and try and find a pattern just yet. It's just to bring the awareness for how often this happens. And what people find is that they're like, okay, I can in this conscious call right now, I can maybe draw up, okay, I know when I talk with my manager and I want to express something and I don't, I can tell you that on this call. Or when I want to talk to a girl at the gym and I don't, I can express that to you. These are easily available to me. But what people tend to find is when they start to become aware of other places that it happens in their life, they're like, oh my God, I do this all the time. I am afraid of looking dumb all the time. And how I've started to overcome that is I had to do a deep dive into my beliefs, my core values, what I believe in. And I set up a guiding principles that help me make decisions better. So it's a decision-making framework. I call it the 3 V's. You have vision, values, and velocity. And the values is one that I'm talking about here, where I can say, I have a thought, and when I express it, I don't have the fear of looking dumb, because if somebody opens their mouth and expresses their disagreement, I can say, listen, it's nothing personal. It's nothing against you. It's nothing emotional. I have a set of values that I've created. And now it's, instead of me and you looking at each other, now we're both facing the same direction, and we're looking at a third party structure, which is a value system that I can point to and say, this is why I'm making decisions the way that I do. And so that eliminates it. It takes the pressure off of me to look dumb. Like that's one of the biggest things that I can give people, is to understand your values, set your guiding principles, and then be able to point to them and start to blame your values for the way that you make decisions.
Wow. This is a very important point, Austin, because I mean, if you see it, many of the relationships, be it living relationship or probably I'm in a place where I see majority of the wife and husbands, they actually fight among themselves instead of fighting with their values, because, wife must have got certain values based on, what they were, what kind of an ambience they had, surroundings they had. Husband must have come through a different kind of set of values. So they actually literally fight. I mean, I really loved it. The concept is bring in value as a third person and then start figuring it out where the real conflict is. Not in the people, but really in the values. Wow. I mean, this is really amazing. So, I mean, if at all, see, I don't know how much really people will immediately absorb at this level, but if at a very, very ground level, if you have to give some kind of an example on how they can deal with one situation about, really fighting out with the values, can you give some example, some real life example?
Of course. So my guiding principle that I've adopted for 2021 is punch above my weight class. And it's a guiding principle because it helps guide my decision making. So when I'm faced with a situation, just recently, it was on LinkedIn, and a lot of people have this fear of looking dumb when it comes to reaching out to people who they believe are in a social class above them. Maybe you're a consultant or a coach and you want to expand your network into CEOs and executives. And let's say you're not very familiar with that quite yet, but you know you're prepared. You know you can serve. You know you can help. And the only thing holding you back is your fold. So if I have established my guiding principle as punch above my weight class, now it eliminates the fear of me reaching out to people, because I'm not saying I'm reaching out as Austin, although I am, but I'm reaching out as Austin guided by the principle of punch above my weight class. So it's no longer like this is an emotional decision and I only reach up to executives when I feel like it. It's like, okay, I am now governed by an external thing that can help me whenever I experience this fear or apprehension or avoidance. I know that I've established that's a trigger for me to go to my guiding principles to say, what is that? So if just, I think another quick example is at the gym, there was a girl that I wanted to talk to, the gym crush, if you will.
Yeah, I love this.
I was afraid, and instead of like, should I do it? I don't know. And like looking weird at the gym, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know, totally.
I started to get this physiological feeling in my stomach. The tummy did a belly flop, which is like, oh, there's an opportunity there that I feel like I'm a match. I clicked over to my guiding principle that said, find fun and play. That's one of my guiding principles. So I said, what could I do? So I just went up and started, like, I pushed the treadmill on one of the faster settings and just started looking at her. Like, hi, how's it going? And she was like, she just started laughing. She's like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I'm just ending my workout on a high note. And I wanted to say, hi. So we just opened up the conversation that way. And it was like such an easy transition in. But if I would have tried to go in as if I were battling my fear, I would have come off so much different. It's a different sort of motivation.
Whoa, okay, this
Yeah.
is really, I mean, see, the whole channel is about simplifying it, but you're really bringing some beautiful, small words, and then you're able to recollect quickly and then implement it, right? And this is very common. I mean, all along in my life, it was very difficult for me to approach a girl. And when I start looking back, it's always my values were, the values which were actually kind of blocking. And you know very well, you took a classic example of being in the gym when you see somebody really fit and, But these things, when in the right time, see, when we're talking about it, we're talking about years or decades of conditioning. How you will be able to actually kind of get to that specific value when you're actually stuck. Majority of the time when you're stuck, your mind kind of goes blank, isn't it? So how do you think, people should approach these certain values? Because values are definitely something new. And the conditioning is more than 20, 30 years of conditioning. How do they approach in terms of, getting into the new conditioning?
Yeah. So to make this very simple, actually, I can make this very tactical. If you spell out personal values, and ES are the last two words, put a period. So personal value.es, exactly as it's spelled, enter in Google. Takes you to a free site where you can essentially find your top 5 values. And that's what I use to start with my clients. So that's a very tactical, simple way that you can start to understand what you value, because it's meant to be done quickly and it's meant to be done with a gut feeling without trying to overanalyze everything. So that once you have that kind of premise of what these values are for you, what you've decided and what you've decided based on your gut feeling, if you've never done this before, then it simplifies in bringing the awareness to what your intuition or what your gut feeling says. And so anytime we feel this kind of, it might sound even oversimplified, and it's much easier said than done, I think. But people say go with your gut all the time, and I want to just bring that up. That it's a practice. It's a practice. I think. Vishen, when he talks about training your intuition, there's a couple ways that you can do it, and one of the ones that stood out to me is if you're just standing at in between two elevator doors that are both closed, and you're waiting on the next one to take the ride up to your skyscraper or whatever penthouse building where you live, Rajesh. You can just look at these two elevator doors and you can guess, you can pick, you can say, okay, the right door is going to open first. That's my gut feeling. I don't know why. I'm just going to pick it. And if you're correct, acknowledge it and celebrate. Ah, cool. I got it. And if not, like, oh, not this time. And then do that same process with, what do I want to eat today? I'm feeling kebabs. And instead of overanalyzing it, just go, okay, I'm going to go get kebabs, and then just do it. So that's a simplified version of how we can start to get over these fears, is don't wait for fear to happen. You can train the intuitive feeling of taking action based on your original thought in all areas of your life, so that when you get to a situation where fear is popping up and you have your fold jumps out at you, you can just say, oh, I've trained on this. It's no longer what I do. It's just becoming who I am. I make decisions based on what I think is right.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, probably I think I'll put that link in the description as well for the people who wanted to really start with. But the concept that you're saying is about giving or maybe giving the freeway for your intuition to overcome fear will actually allow you to express yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, not your intuition, but it's really I think the practice. The practice is the most important part. Number one is awareness, bringing awareness to where you have these feelings that arise that want to motivate action, and then taking the action based on that feeling that arises. The practice of doing that over and over.
And what happens if someone is going to continuously, fail? They get demotivated, right? So like, for example, for the elevator or probably the lottery ticket or maybe the next meal, once it continuously goes off. So do you think such a thing will ever happen, or how do they deal with it?
Yeah, to deal with continuous failure on that sense, well,
That sense.
Think about it this way. If you're saying, okay, these two results are ambiguous, like with the elevator scenario, right? If the right one opens first, hooray. If the left one opens first, boo. In that sense, we've failed. We're wrong. However, when we're picking what to eat, kebabs versus green beans, I don't know. Let's say you love green beans as well, equally as much as kebabs, and you choose kebabs, it's now the outcome is a win, and it's not a fail. But the win is, oh, I took an action when I could have just spun my wheels. And I think that's a big win. Instead of saying, okay, my success or failure is based on the outcome, the success or failure is based on whether or not you pursued the process of choosing, right? So now it's, the victory doesn't come as a result. The victory comes as a process.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So, I mean, if you leave that elevator thing, probably what you're saying is right. People should practice literally in allowing them to express, and at the level of even before fear pops in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And tell me one thing, when is the last incident when you had this kind of a experience where fear actually, kind of popped in, and then you kind of kicked out that fear?
It was today at the grocery store.
That's pretty recent.
Yeah. It happens all the time. I'm not special. Like, I have lots of things that I get scared of or afraid, fear of looking dumb. I still feel that, but it's because I have trained myself on a daily basis, constantly over and over again, to take action even when I'm confused. That's what has allowed me to go around the world. That's what's allowed me to remain in ambiguity, I guess. So anyway, back to the grocery store. Of course, it was talking to another girl. Now, there's an additional piece of information. Since I'm in Istanbul, I'm in a little bit more residential area. So the grocery store that I go to, very few people speak English. So imagine you're at a place and you want to make contact with someone who you find attractive, or maybe they have a nice energy about them and you want to express yourself in their energy and intermingle, whatever.
Mm.
That's great. If they spoke the same language, it would be pretty easy. I think I'm pretty suave. I think I'm pretty cool. I can communicate, using my language. But there's always that chance that they're not going to speak English at all. And then, oh, what am I going to do? Oh, I'm going to look so stupid. Oh, I don't speak Turkish and I'm in Turkey,
Yeah.
The thoughts that went rushing through my mind when I saw this attractive girl. She was doing something stupid. Like she was taking a picture of cream cheese in labne, I think is what it's called. Like
Labna. Yes, you're right.
labna, yeah.
Labna.
She was taking a picture of the stand of this stuff. And it's like, I don't know why she was doing that. It was funny to me. I was like, why the hell are you taking a picture of cheese, or yogurt? That's not something a normal person would do.
Yeah.
So I went up right next to her and I looked at her like this, like this. And I looked at her and I laughed and I was like, ooh, wow, nice. And she went, she looked at me so weird. And I said, did you take, are you going to hang this on your wall? And she didn't speak English. Okay. And so it was like, now I can't even explain to her what I'm doing. Like, haha, I think this is funny. I'm just trying to start a conversation. Now she looks at me like I'm crazy, because I kind of am. Now I can't even explain myself out of it.
Yeah.
So that was the most recent situation where I was like, oh, that I could look dumb. And I did. And you know what? I just laughed and said, okay, have a good day. And she went and walked away. And guess what? I bought some eggplant and I left the store. And now I'm talking to you. And oh my God, I'm still here. How crazy is that? Nothing happened.
Whoa. So this is the key. I understand, right? When you actually approach a girl, generally it's a very long process. If it was, that kind of value system where you see, I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to look dumb. I don't want to, all these things are coming between the thought of seeing somebody attractive and the, real action that is taken. You seem to have actually mastered the mindset between them, where you make things so funny and it doesn't even get registered in terms of, hey, man, it was a little weird, right? And you're okay to even talk about it. This is really very important because the current generation, I would say, spending time on thinking about whether to approach the girl or not, waiting for a few months, it's all waste of time. The world is much better and bigger. But tell me one thing. Tell me about Mindvalley is definitely one of the most sought after company, right? And I was really, really surprised when you took a decision to move away from Mindvalley and come into something else. What kind of thought process went into that direction?
Yeah, I get asked this question a lot, particularly because Mindvalley is quite a wonderful company to develop yourself. Working inside the company, there's tons of opportunity for you to explore yourself deeper, let alone the content and the connections that you have. There's like just the work itself requires you to do your own personal development. At least in my experience on the team that I was in, which was called Tribe Dynamics. It was all about relationships and human connection. And that's where I kind of cut my teeth, if you will, with coaching and facilitating group workshops and all that kind of stuff. That was part of my job. So the last 5-ish months that I was working at Mindvalley, I was the live calls host, which is the authors that that Mindvalley has for their programs. They also had a community aspect where the author would talk and do a live Q&A session with the community. And I was the one who would host the author and talk to them and ask the questions and facilitate conversation and keep everybody engaged. That was my job for the past 5 months of that company. And it got to a point where I started to ask myself the question, am I here because I'm receiving, or am I here because I'm giving?
Mm.
And the answer that came through to me at the time was, I'm here because I'm receiving. I'm here because I'm taking. I'm getting lots of opportunity. I'm receiving lots of development. I'm receiving lots of connections. But what I felt that I could give was not exactly being fulfilled. And I could probably have stuck around longer, but I was unwilling to, I felt that I could give better and more elsewhere in a different capacity. And it's just
Mm.
part of my, I don't know. I think a lot of it has to do with risk tolerance, which is probably a different conversation. But I have a very high risk tolerance in where I'm able to stay in ambiguity for a long time and not settle for an easy option that's available to me in that ambiguity. I can wait for the right opportunity to go. And so yeah, it was on a very general, simple basis. I felt like I was taking more than I was contributing, and for that reason, I left.
Hmm. Wow. I mean, you're daring. I mean, I can see that mindset, the way that you apply, right? Those values in terms of taking those decisions. I mean, how important it is taking decisions at the right time. How much it
Mm.
contributes to life.
Yeah, it's the right time, and I think, all right, there are two sides of this. Yes, there is a right time objectively, and at the same time, as anyone who has experienced this fear of rejection or their fear of looking dumb or fear of anything else, they know that there is no right time.
Mm.
It's never going to be the right time. You've experienced this too. I know you have.
Yes.
I've experienced this too, where objectively there's like, okay, there's a right time to do this, and it's going to be in 6 months from now. And then 6 months later, you might look at it and you might say, I thought I was going to be further along than I am. Now's not the right time.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it's this paradox of there is a right time and there's never a right time.
Mm. Yeah. I got
You
it.
have
So
to be the one. You have to be the one to decide.
yeah, I mean, probably I think taking decisions are the key. Whether the right time or not is something, again, it comes from your previous method of saying that keep taking the decisions by expressing yourself, whether it is selecting a meal or changing a career. But you need to continue to allow yourself to express and then see if you're taking the decisions or not and correct
Mm.
it later, isn't it?
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And yeah.
A quick note. A quick note on that. Actually, it has to do with finance, which I know that you're a finance guy, but something that really stuck out to me. This is more of your domain than mine. However, I think is relevant to the conversation. When money comes in, a lot of the times people don't have a dam, and so it just flows back out.
Mm.
And so what I have started to do in my own personal financial life, because it was my focus for December, is I've started to create that dam. So when money comes in, I stop it, and I am now in control of where that water goes, whether it goes in this stream or it stays in the pool. And
Mm.
it's the same thing with taking decisions. Information comes in all day long, and your decisions are like going out. So if you haven't constructed a dam, which can be values, they could be your guiding principles, they can be taking decisions based on the awareness of your own intuition, that is the dam in which you control your decisions. And most people haven't constructed that dam for themselves, and so they just feel exhausted because they don't know why they're not in control of their lives, and it's because they're not. Other people are.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
just my note
that,
on
that
that.
I think that is also very important because the kind of domain that you worked in, relationships, right? That
Mhm.
plays a key role even in relationships, right? When the dam is not there, people tend to kind of spend between both of them, and then finally they realized, oh my God, okay, he spent more or maybe she spent more. The conversation will go into an unhealthy zone, right?
Mm.
If the dam is not kind of connected, or I mean, how do they do it in terms of in the relationships? Finance play a very key role. So how do you think the bridge has to be a bridge which is discussed among both of them when in a relationship, or probably both should have independent and individual bridges?
hmm So when it comes to finance, I think that's your domain, and you would be the person that I would consult on happy money and all of that kind of stuff, which is work by Ken Honda, who I interviewed, and is an amazing guy to talk to about money. But when it comes to making relationships decisions, so I was in a relationship almost the entire time that I was working at Mind Valley, almost the entire time. It was 13 months, and we hit 1 year in our relationship in Malaysia, and then 5 days later we moved to Turkey together, and then a month later after that we decided to separate. And that was a decision that I made based on my values. I just said, it was a conversation that I had to have. It was difficult, and this is another instance where it was the right time. But if you want to get out of a relationship, there's never a right time to do it. You're like, maybe tomorrow. It doesn't feel right. She's mad. I don't feel whatever. On and on and on. So the conversation just came up where it was me saying, okay, listen, if we were having a coaching conversation, an enrollment conversation, I would say to you as a potential client, listen, there's 2 ways we can end this conversation. 1, no, not right now. And you and me will postpone our working relationship for another time. And that's okay. And the second one would be, hell yes, let's move forward. Let's go. But there's no, let me check, maybe, let me see about it. I'll have to think about it. It's not going to happen, man. It's one or the other. I only want to work with my hell yes clients. And so I said, in this relationship, it's not a hell yes for me right now. It's a no, not right now. And she said, okay. And that's how we moved away from, that's how we moved apart. So I think when it comes to relationship communication and communicating courageously, you have to understand that you have to have a strong stance of what you want. And if it's not a hell yes, then what are you doing?
Yeah, that's right. But what happens on the other side? See, I'm so glad, to listen to this and the way that you actually have the courage to communicate. What happens on the other side? If the other side, your partner, it applies to so many relations which are kind of hanging, but having no fun in the relation, right? So what happens, the other side is weak, or probably they're not emotionally strong, or maybe they're emotionally too much dependent on you, then how do they respond to such situation?
I think one of the first steps that we can take in any communication is fundamental, and it comes from Michael Bungay-Stanier, who's Canada's first top coach. But he has a book called The Coaching Habit, and one of the principles in the coaching habit is called stay curious longer. So most of us have this this advice monster, is what he calls it, where we ask a question and the other person gives an answer, and then we give advice based on that answer. And his concept is, you ask a question, they give an answer, and instead of this will come up, your advice, oh, I know the answer to that. Instead, stay curious longer and ask another question, because it's never the first thing that comes up, which is the issue. It's always something deeper. So in these relationship communications, I think this is the key that we have to do, is we have to stay curious longer and say, okay, this isn't working for me. What's not working for you? Well, you're always late, and you always, leave your eggs in the pan, and you never wash the dishes.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow. I acknowledge the way that you made that makes you feel. I can totally see that, and I agree with you. Okay. What else? I just be curious instead of defending yourself right away.
Wow. Okay. I love this concept. Stay curious longer. For all those people who are actually kind of thinking about your relationships, apply this formula from Austin. Stay curious longer. Again, another important point what Austin made is never ever defend. Be okay with it if there is some mistake. Nobody is perfect, right? So, but when it comes to some levels of really, I'm talking about some people go on suicide, and some people cannot tolerate, and divorce is one of the topmost reason for people to be in the distress. So is it something, any approach is going to be different, it is exactly, or is it exactly the same?
I think you have to approach these with, of course, the first thing I would say is a professional, like a counselor or a psychiatrist who's trained in that mental health area. But one thing I want to point out, and I actually had a session with a client last night who felt responsible for the death of one of his personal training clients, who died of a heart attack more than 48 hours after their last training session. And he was taking on the personal feeling of guilt and responsibility for this man's death. So you can see there's some sort of relationship here that might have some sort of relationship on people in their romantic relationships, which is who I am or what I did caused your action, which is not true. It's not true. It's their interpretation of your action, which may have caused something else. But the topic of suicide, I think, is very serious. And the one point that I want to make is generally it's not one or the other person's fault, and we have to look into all the factors from years and years of different variables that contributed to the event that then may have seen as the causation of this tragic thought pattern, I guess. So that's the one point I want to make, is like the acute scenario is never the only cause.
Yeah, I can see it. Probably, I think I can see very clearly the way that you dealt with your past relationships and also the experience you had in Mind Valley is actually, I can really take that. And this is going to really, every single thing that you've shared so far is going to help many of the relationships not even to reach to that level. Because if the communication is already courageous, even before it really went into that such serious situation, I mean, that's a contribution by itself. But while we're really talking a lot about the relationships, I just want to put some thought process in creating an kind of impact that you are trying to do, right? How do people really think about taking their expertise and kind of help around? Because that is something is slowly coming up as I see it. Most of the people right now is with the mindset, me, my life, probably my house, nothing more. So how do you think the relationship with the overall society should be going forward?
So there are two constructs that we're working with here. One is the individuality and the self-expression, which I think is extremely important, and it's paramount. The ability to express yourself not only through your words, but the way that you perceive life and what you believe is true about life will govern how you act. If I believe that if I believe that all strangers, well, we'll say most. If my belief is that most strangers are benevolent and they are friendly and accepting, then my actions will govern that, and I will walk up to somebody who's taking a picture of cheese and go like this,
Yeah.
But if I believe that Turkish people are mean, and if they hate Americans, I would have a very different way of governing myself in the world. And so there's this kind of belief structure about the way that you're seeing things and the way that you believe to see it. So this is the second thing. One is self-expression and how you bring your thoughts into your actions. And the second thing is the vision of a better future. And this is something that also people, I would highly invite them to work on for themselves, is how do you see the world as a better place? It doesn't matter what context you want to put that in. That's a very broad and general statement. But how is the world as you would like it to be? What would you like to be better? And then now knowing that you have some sort of context of the future that's better than now, you can express yourself toward that future. Remember the 3 V's that I talked about? First one is values, how I see myself, how I express myself in the world. The second one is vision, which is the future. Then the third one is velocity, which is how can I bring myself from here to there as fast as possible. And this is where strategy and connections and kind of the plans and goal setting comes in. So I guess that would be my expression on how to bring it out into society. Is you have to understand how you want to react, how you want to respond. You have to understand where the world is going that you want to see and you want to help create. And then you should have vehicles in order to help you get there. A lot of people do this through career and relationship and contribution and going to Tony Robbins events. These are all vehicles to help you produce that vision of the future.
And you have been already mentoring so many people, right? Do you have any specific area that you actually mentor people, or probably relationships, entrepreneurship? Any specific area?
Yeah. So the people that I'm resonating with the most and who are resonating with me the most are they're a little bit further in their career and they're looking to make a shift or they're looking to up level and they
Mm.
want to know how to do that by expressing who they are because they know that they're feeling a little bit they're feeling like there are a lot of these instances where they're not expressing themselves because of the fold, because of the fear of rejection, because of this fear, and they want help kind of overcoming the way that they communicate and the way that they bring themselves into the world because they know their own intrinsic value and they know that they can shine even brighter, but they want the momentum and they want the courage to do that. So I help those people kind of upskill and uplevel their communication skills and their courage to gain traction in their career, to start a project that they've always wanted to start, to scale their projects, from a solopreneur into a team, to get in or out of to get out of relationships more so, not necessarily to get in them. So these people who are looking to upskill their lives by courageously communicating who they are.
So you're listening, upskill or upskill, better follow. The links are right here in the description. Make sure to find out how you can upskill and upscale. But if there is something I've seen also on your profile, middle-age crisis, right? Is it only related to this or also is it connected to anything beyond career change?
Yeah, so midlife crisis generally happens when people have essentially succeeded in the material world or in societal expectations. They got the house, they have the kids who are now left, so they're empty nesters, and they feel like there's no more meaning in their life, and they want to reinvent themselves. And so they typically, I don't know, some trends of this are to purchase unnecessary things, to change their look, change their environment, and just kind of go off the handle where they like completely have a reinvention of who they are. And it's done based on different models of the way other people see the world, and they try and bring those onto themselves.
Mm.
And it generally ends up as like a peak, a spike, and then a crash. And
Yes.
so the prevention of that, the upstream solution to that is to find out what makes you tick earlier on so you can align yourself with your true north. So you can have this is where the strategic self-expression comes in. So you can almost have a strategy that says, what do I do when my life feels unfulfilled? Well, it should never feel unfulfilled because it's not based on success or failure as a result. It's now based on success of choosing your own outcome every time, which is ongoing as we started the conversation with.
Oh yeah. So
So that's
we
that's where
make
that's
sure
at.
that you make sure that you give the strategies and the process to make sure that they don't need to go up, crash. Instead of that, you actually go through the a certain proven process where they actually can see the upside.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And and I mean, how is your work going on in the Earth University?
Yeah. So Earth University is the nonprofit that I'm helping build. And we're supporting culture change from the inside out by mentoring humans for humanity. And what that means is essentially it's this concept that I told you about, the 3 V's of your personal values, your vision for the future, and the velocity that gets you there. What happens that we've seen traditionally in the past in companies is that they have a strategic vision for the company and then they just expect the roles of the company to fit in and help the velocity take them to the vision of the future. And what they leave out is the personal values. So what Earth University is doing is coming into organizational teams, leadership teams, emerging talent, and saying, listen, if you want to keep these guys, if you want to retain your talent, if you want to grow your organization as one based on full expression, and so you're able to grow and you're able to retain people better, you should do what we call radical self-care, which is essentially realigning these people to their true north, finding out what their true gifts are, what their passions are, what lights them up, so that when they're in their role, they're on much more resourceful, they're higher energy, they'll wake up earlier, stay up later, connect with more people, go the extra mile, because it's not what they have to do, it just is who they are. So Earth University is coming in and doing personal one-on-one mentoring sessions, radical self-care, to realign these people and finding out what it is that they really want, and then allowing them to be themselves in their organization to take it further faster.
Wow. And you're heading the mentoring division there, right?
Yeah. So there's essentially one of the challenges that we saw with coaches and healers and people who love to help people is they're really good at their craft, but they suck at marketing and they
Yeah.
suck at the business part. So the solution to that is to say, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to talk to organizations who are interested in developing their people in this way through radical self-care. And then I'm going to pair that with these really powerful mentors who are extremely equipped and qualified to help people see their true north and becoming aligned. And then I can take leadership teams and match them up with these mentors. So a head of mentorship is kind of that bridge that I'm starting to build in the nonprofit between the organizations, the leadership teams here, and this tribe of mentors that we have here.
Wow, this sounds really very exciting. So it's something that I would see as the next future for people. Really, an organization wants to have everybody who is going to contribute with their heart out. They need to have people connected to their personal values. And you seem to be on a very, very exciting project. And I mean, what I can say is if any of you are really looking for upskill or upscale, or probably if you want to really go out there and mentor people, here is a man. Austin Willman is the person to be actually contacted. All the handles are down in the description. Make sure to check in. And I want to ask Austin, before we really conclude this very, very interesting conversation, it started with mindset and then it ended into, a lot of relationship mindset of courage to communicate, right? And your book, all this is actually, related to the mindset. Is there any one final advice that you can give which can make an immediate impact in people's lives in terms of the mindset?
Opportunity naturally opens for you when you do things that you like. That's it.
That's an amazing note actually to conclude this. And ladies and gentlemen, this is an amazing conversation with Austin where he actually dropped all those knowledge nuggets about the mindset, how you can deal with relationships, career, and midlife crisis. And I would say thank you so much, Austin. And it has been really, really pleasure having this conversation and giving all this knowledge to this audience. And audience, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you enjoy the video, make sure to give it a like or maybe comment below if you have any questions to Austin or probably anything related to mindset. Or if you have not yet done, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell next to it. I'll see you in the next episode of Mindset Simplified. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.